Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Gliding in. I am very, very glad to see you. Hello, mate. How are you? All right?
I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. The reason I say I'm glad is because obviously I wasn't sure whether you'd find 2 minutes to move away from your ancient typewriter to find time to actually come and speak to me. But you have. You've put the quill down. You've stepped away from your parchment. Any other old gags? You've
Yes.
stopped doing your cave drawings and writing on your chalk and your slate or whatever. I don't know. I've run out now. But
Yeah. It's an old laptop, but I am actually using a laptop.
Wow.
You know, slowly, but yeah. No, you're right.
Is what I expect, mate. I know that you've got no idea how any kind of technology works, but
I do. I know the little clicky pens. You got to press the top. I mean, I know.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to dip them in an ink pot anymore, do you?
Apparently not. They don't work so well. No.
But anyway, enough taking a bit. Genuinely, how is preparation and writing and stuff going? Because I know
It's good. I mean, yeah, we've got to catch people up a little bit. We're producing another half-term show. Because Jungle Law was fabulous last year. So this year it's Jungle Law 2, The Magic Claw. So it's another adaptation but we've moved it along. This is our own version of Tales from the Jungle Book, if you like. So we're writing that, planning that. Obviously, we've got the casting to do and blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's full steam ahead with the house. The flat's like a production office. We've got papers here and so yeah, it's good fun. But
it's keeping you busy, and I have to say, January for me, I mean, as a rule, and we'll have people saying this is not true, but I would stand by it. January, as a rule, in general across the industry, is quiet. You've got a big element, and some are still ongoing. Don't get me wrong. There are still some pantos that run well into January, and even does the Palladium go to February, or am I imagining that? It certainly, I think Mother Goose did, but I don't know if it is this year.
Yeah, I think they run up to the end of January. I'm sure.
But essentially, there are lots of Christmas or certainly Christmas holiday, winter themed shows that do continue on into this month, and some even just beyond. However, the majority of the industry at this point is going, fucking hell, we got through Christmas.
That's deep breath time.
Stop, let's take a breather, etc., etc. And because of that, you do find that sometimes it can be a bit quieter at this time of year. I mean, it's no big secret that pantomime tends to be fairly well paid, but equally that's because you're doing this hugely sort of endless amount of work. It's kind of non-stop, very much bang you in, and it's a million miles an hour for almost an entire month or beyond, depending on what sort of company you're working for. So you are certainly earning that money. But I personally, and I think probably a lot of other actors and performers would say, you look at it as work really, really hard in November, December, January, however that long that contract lasts, to earn money to kind of cover the beginning of the year that's a bit quieter. It's sort of big contract in to make up for the fact that not many big contracts upcoming for the beginning of the year.
Someone said to me once, it's a bit like squirrels burying their nuts. You know, you stock up for the winter, and then you forget where you put your nuts. But that's beside the point. But it is like that. You gather everything in because you know, as you say, January and February, in the most part, certainly theatre-wise, tends to be quite quiet.
Yeah.
Because everybody's, literally, as you say, they're either carrying on. There's big get-outs going on. There's and it is a period where people go, okay, new year. What are we doing? What's coming up?
Yeah, you're sort of taking stock, aren't you, and going
It
right.
is, yeah. I mean,
It's a new era sort of thing.
exactly, yeah. So it literally is a new year, new start. But it's interesting because it does make people go, what are we going to do? You know, what can I do in the interim? I mean, there's still filming is still happening, television is still happening, you know, all that. But the theatre does go a little bit of a dark time, a little
Yeah.
bit of rest.
Although I have to say, just to completely counteract what we're saying, I believe very recently a good friend of the podcast, Mr. Leo Abad, has just started on the national tour of Bat Out of Hell. The
Yeah.
John Steinbeck, not John Steinbeck. What am I on about? Steinman, isn't it?
It just Steinbeck. That's coming completely different.
Yeah, no, it's Steinman, isn't it? That Meatloaf worked with, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doubting
Steinman.
myself completely now. But either
No,
way,
Steinbeck is mice and men. Steinman, yeah.
yes,
Excuse me.
yes.
Yeah.
Throwing myself completely. You knew exactly what I meant. Either way, congratulations and very best of luck and break a leg to Leo, who's just kicked off the first leg, I believe, of the national tour of Bat Out of Hell, which feels slightly odd to be beginning it in January, maybe, but perhaps that was to give a chance for some of the performers in that production company to finish their Christmas contracts. I don't know, but
It's a good Christmas contract makes a good break because you've got summer stuff happening up until the autumn, and then there is that break for Christmas productions. They end, as you say, early January, mid January, and then tours and stuff kicks off. So it kind of makes a natural break between autumn and spring. So there's a lot of stuff starts off. They'll do a couple of weeks of previews or a couple of preview tours, and then kicks in for the spring run. So it kind of that little pantomime Christmas show break sits quite comfortably. Yeah. Also, it's, as we said, it's also financially very good for a lot of theatres,
Yes, and I suppose then that it comes down to choices of the producers, or certainly the input of the people putting the money behind and creating these productions.
Yeah.
As to try and work out when is it best to start something, when are we going to get the best engagement, when is it going to fit best into schedules of other things that are going on. I guess theatres are looking at where have we got gaps and where do we want to put things. So there's a whole multitude of other reasons. But we're at this period where you certainly are jumping right back into your, I was going to say producer shoes. You are producing a show, but equally you're performing in it and writing in it and directing it. You're doing everything because you're mad. But I actually wanted to ask about the production side of things because the industry, I think, more and more is becoming something where people are making their own work. And we talked last year about new writing. But I want to look at this in a slightly different way because new writing is often someone has this idea, this brilliant kind of thing they want to do, they want to give it life. And that's very much more the creative side. They have this idea, they have their baby essentially that they want to reveal to the world. When it comes to production, I think that very much more leans to the business side of the industry. I mean, an executive producer is purely someone to provide funds. Yes, they might have a little bit of input onto certain things within a production, but as a rule, you wouldn't say they were creative in any way. So that role tends to be they are almost a financier, aren't they? They
I mean, I think
in something and kind of.
I mean, the producer to me pulls all the elements together, and initially that is obviously money. You can't do anything without having the funding or some way of springboard in the production. It's an interesting point because we've just said it's a quiet period for actors. So actors are sitting there twiddling their thumbs, as a lot of actors do a lot of the time. We there are a lot of periods of waiting, as we know.
Yeah.
But all that time, producers are producing. Now, there's a lot of actors, like you said, actors are making their own work. So what they're doing is rather than waiting for the producer, which is how I see it anyway, rather than waiting for the producer to go, okay, I've got this show, that's that, it's been directed by, let's cast it, and then we as performers get involved, we close the gap. If you start producing your own stuff, you close that gap. You become the producer. Go, this is the idea. Be it a bit of new writing or something, you know, like like we spoke to Sue Gilroy during the summer. She became a producer. She had those works, and then she cast them. But I suppose what Verona and I have done, we've got a venue, the Watermill. We became involved in that when we did the Grotto many years ago, and we just played Mr. and Mrs. Claus. And then the owner of the venue said, I'd like to do some shows here. Would you come on board and do it? Now, he was kind of like our executive producer. And he had the venue, he had some money, and we put the shows in, and we become with him now. The way it works is it's a co-production with him and us. So we are producers. What we're also doing is we write the stuff. So there's the new writing element. We act in them, we cast them. So we're doing everything. So what we're doing is basically bringing the producing closer to the actors. In our case, we close the gap. We're doing all jobs. We don't, we are very commercial in so much as we back it with our own money, because we don't take anything. If we don't make money, we lose money. It's very commercial. It's like Sue during the summer. Her ticket sales were her. That's her funding. A lot of theatres are like that. A lot of rep companies and they run on. If we don't sell the tickets, we don't make any money. We're not subsidised in other way.
Yes.
National Theatre, the RSC, they get masses of subsidy. Don't necessarily have to make the money. They have to justify it, but they don't. So in this case, Verona and I live and die by our ticket sales. We get good ticket sales. We will pay everyone, our actors. We pay our actors. If we don't make the money that goes into our bank account, we lose it.
Yes.
And that's the risk. That is the making your own work. I mean, yes, we if it's good, we pay ourselves. And if there's a little profit, we take a profit.
Yeah.
Like all theatre companies. But if you don't, and then it comes down to the other elements that the actors don't normally have to consider, and that's marketing and ticket sales, pricing. I mean, when you or I get offered a job, you go and you go, oh, it's an X number of weeks. I'm going to get paid that much. Oh, that's good. I might want a little bit more. Can I ask for a bit more? Can we, is there a travel element in there? Is there accommodation on the way? So all those elements, that's when we start to think as performers, money, because you go, okay, can I afford to do it? Is it well paid? That goes beyond whether you actually want to do it because it's a good part or whatever. That takes the artistic out of it. So there's about all those elements when, you're producing something, you have to think of. I mean, I remember doing a friend of mine. We'd worked together on a show. She was a DSM stage manager, and she was very good. And two friends of hers, they were literally these three girls were twiddling their thumbs, going, "What are we going to do?" And Annie said, "I think we should do a production of Shakers. I think we should take it on tour." And then she got friends in to do stuff. And she became the producer. Her two friends, they put some money in the pot as well. They got a fourth girl, because there are four girls parts in Shakers. And they said, look, you can either come on board, we will all pay ourselves wages, but do you want to cut the profits by putting some money in? And the fourth girl said, yep, we'll put some money in. So then they did, so then they were, so you had actors that were angels in the company. You had Annie and her mate who were producers, and they were putting money in. Then I came on board as director.
Yeah.
And then she asked me to direct it. But I also went on tour as company stage manager and the stage manager.
Yeah.
So we and that was making our own work. That was completely, we were responsible for everything. There was a silent partner, if you like, who did all the accounting and things, and he literally was an accountant. He sat at home, and that, you know, you'd ring them up and go, okay, here's the bills for this week, blah blah blah. How are we doing? Yeah, pay everybody. It's all done, lovely, like, you know. So there was that, but that was just literally our accountant, you know, the treasurer, if you like. But that was, and we did everything. You know, I was directing, and I had to learn how to use a sound desk, a lighting desk, and everything for the tour, because it kept it down. You know, it kept all the.
This is it.
So
Yeah.
at the end, there was a profit that got split between the four girls that are backing it. Then there was another little bit of profit that myself, the accountant, and everything took as well. So, you know, not a lot, but
it's worth noting that profit you're talking about there was beyond paying normally. So everyone got a wage as well. So we're beyond, and people will have heard talk about it if they're not in the industry. If you are in the industry, obviously, no. But if you're not, profit share productions, which is where every single penny of profit is what makes your wages. So if the production doesn't, the producers may lose money. As a performer, you're never going to lose money other than your expenses in a profit share production, but your profit is based solely on the production making enough money to pay people, which it's sort of a bone of contention, isn't it, within the industry? Like, it's understandable why it is done sometimes, but I personally, I don't think I've ever done a profit share production simply because I've never been in a position where I could take that risk. I understand how some people can, and I understand that sometimes it's absolutely necessary because there are brand new things that you kind of go, well, if I don't do this, then I could miss out on an opportunity. This is an amazing thing. And I've certainly considered stuff. But at the end of the day, as much as I adore acting, it is my job. And it's what pays my mortgage and puts food on the table. So it's a very difficult position to be in. And I would say more often than not, those that can take on profit share productions have a backup plan or have
risk. It is risk. I mean, we spoke many seasons ago to my cousin Georgia, who worked for White Bear, and she produces. She's just directed and I think co-produced, but directed certainly, show at the Old Red Lion. And in that instance, she was a director. I think she was paid, so, you know, or a share of the profits or whatever. But certainly, she didn't take on the risk. Now, when she was at the White Bear, she was on, I believe, a small retainer, and then her wages were off the back of the profits of the show, the theatre. So companies were going in there, they were paying the White Bear to hire the space to produce their show. Standard. So that was where but down the line, the production company going into the White Bear, they're taking the risk. They've got the risk. I've got to pay the venue. I've got to pay the cost of the show. You might have to pay the rights for the script or whatever. Which is why often a lot of new writing is done because you don't have to pay anyone.
Well, yes, yeah, that's that big difference, isn't it? And where it ties back into the new writing, where if you are looking at producing something, a way of saving costs is not having to already pay for existing material.
Right.
On the flip side, if you want to guarantee ticket sales, doing something well known that people love already gives you a step up there. So this is where I could never do the production side, and I tip my hat to you for being able to do all these different things. Like I say, you're an absolute madman to direct, act, produce, work all these things out. It's a minefield of
you have to. I mean,
explore.
It is a risk, as you say, and it is minimizing the risk wherever you can. I mean, the last show, Jungle Law, you know, we knew that we had a lot of the costumes there. We knew we had because we'd produced it many years ago. So it wasn't we knew that looked great. We knew our production values could be high. All we had to do was sell the show, get good people. So we cast 3 really good actors. The summer panto we did, Red Riding Hood. We knew that and on that, it's interesting because that one, we spent a little bit more on the production because we didn't have necessarily the costumes in the store. So we had to invest in that. and that cost a little bit of money. So you're going, okay, we're not going to make quite so much out of this because we've had to invest in costumes. Now,
That's the key
Jungle
word,
Law,
though, isn't it? That's the key
right?
word, is invest. Because
Yes, yes.
it's not an expense that is in and gone and you write it off, because you then have the facility. I mean, to slightly go off on a tangent, you've bought these costumes in, there is facility to lend/hire them out to someone else. I know companies that have bought backdrops for pantomime productions.
Oh, yeah.
In the Starcloths and things like that, and then have gone, well, we've got a full set or a full set of backcloths that we can rent out. So yes, we may have spent X £1,000 having them made or buying them in the first place, but the next 3 years we're not going to use those ones. So let's rent those out to other people, and we'll charge a certain amount. And actually, we've made our money back. So these are another elements that then come into it. As you say, you spent more on this production to bring in costumes, but it's not a one-use throwaway.
No. Well, that was why we go maybe to do Jungle Law again. I mean, it was a lovely show, and it is a really good show, and the next one will be a great iteration. But we know we got the costumes there. We also know that they work, that the production values, they look great. Audiences love them, so we know that that's going to work from that point of view. So yeah, we're
limiting your risk, aren't you? You're taking things that you know,
minimize it,
or you can. Nothing is ever guaranteed, but there are things
No.
that you can sort of go, we are 95% sure that based on previous experience and blah blah blah, this will happen, or this will be the case, which is fine. Feel free to tell me to fuck off, and you're not going to answer. Are you given by your sort of co-producer, as in the owner of the venue, the owner of the space? Are you given, I was going to say a budget, not necessarily a budget, but sort of a number where you go, right, here is what you have to spend comfortably? No. So it's completely sort of,
it's blind. We go blind. It's completely any expenses initially come out of our pocket. So anything we spend on anything, from staples for a staple gun to backdrops and that, we pay for. Yeah, that's the risk. Then obviously we the venue is the producer. He's the co-producer. So we have that venue. So right, that's my investment is the venue. So when we come down to literally at the end, when you're like a lot of theatre companies, you do your books. You go, okay, we've made that much. We've spent that much, so we'll take that out the profits. That comes back in. And then your profits goes away. Okay, what are we've paid the wages, that's gone, so that comes out, all that. So eventually that you've got that much money, eventually it goes, that's it. Yeah. That's where we are now as our profits that we share. So that it might mean, it hasn't meant it so far, but it might mean that we pay ourselves, we all our expenses are covered. We might end up earning less than the actors, but we haven't lost any money. No, that hasn't worked out so far. We've been okay. But I mean, very often that's what happens in profit share shows. Yeah, is that everybody ends up, if people are honest, and in 99% of the time people are, well, 95% of the time, or everything. We've made this much. The production has cost this much. There are 10 people going to share that much, and that's the profit share, But everything has to be paid for. So you only share the profits. You don't. So you're sharing the risk in so much as, I mean, I've done profit share shows, and we sat there and gone, bloody hell, the ticket sales are amazing. Yeah. We're great. And then I've done one where, I did one where we just sat there and, you just looked at and went, we're not going to make enough money to cover our bar bills. Yeah, that's the risk, And the biggest
point, you're drinking more to make up for the fact the shows are going shit.
Damn right. I mean, but the biggest risk because we didn't put any money in. I'm an actor sitting there going to go. Hopefully, I'll make 20 quid out of this. Yeah. My only investment is time and tube fares. Yeah. But the producer, they've already bought stuff. They've paid for the venue for 2 weeks. They bought costumes. That's a massive investment, and they haven't made that back in ticket sales. They might make some back, but they've lost. They've spent 4,000, they've done 3,000 in ticket sales. They're £1,000 down, so they're out of money. We just don't get paid. but that's the risk,
And this is where somewhere like a venue or someone that has facilities might then have the upper hand, because what you have to take into account, using a random example, let's say we've got a theatre space who say a company can come in, right, we'll give you the venue for free, but we take everything from the bar. So you're getting a space as a production company, but you are just making money on ticket sales. Whereas the venue are going, well, yes, we'll take our cut of that or whatever the agreement is there. But equally, we can almost guarantee that on average, one drink will be purchased by person. Here's our profit from a drink. Here's our merchandise is another thing, isn't it? Like not so much with Jungle Law or those kind of things. But if we look at Panto as an example, how many kids will go in and go, "Mummy, I want a flashing whatever," or
I want a wand, I want a hat,
program, and bags of sweets that you need to take out a second mortgage to be able to afford. Whereas if you go to the pound shop, you can get 3 bags of. But it's supply and demand, isn't it? It's needs must. So we've all been to concerts or gigs where you're like, "Wow, do you know what? I quite like a beer." It's how much? Well, yes, I can afford one if I sell my car. But what other option do you have? You either go without, or you pay this premium price, and you're kind of like, well, if I'm having a night out, if I'm having this fun event, why should I not go all out? Why should I hold myself back? And that's another, I guess, consideration for producers who are going, yes, I need to look at the production itself. I need to look at what that's going to make. And obviously, we're talking here about theatre. The world of film is entirely different. Producers,
it's a totally different thing.
Take completely different things into account. Like, are the actors I've got in it going to sell tickets for me to the cinema or downloads or whatever, purely based on the fact that we know they're really good, they've won X amount of awards, they're always in good stuff, so people will want to go and see it regardless of what the film or the TV show is because of that name, which is where that almost weird blend comes in, where Panto sits on the verge of two, because Panto is theatre 100%, but Panto also quite often features people who are TV film stars or whatever, or social media, people that you wouldn't normally see on a stage who sell tickets. So I
very often they're not employed.
We should try and get a pantomime producer on, because I think the stories behind that and the logic and stuff, I think it'd be incredible, because that you take your merchandise, ticket sales, venue, costumes, all that sort of side of things, plus names, contracts, like promotion. The fact that if you are in a premium space, you have to do Panto because everyone else does. There's almost that sort of gun against your head moment. Why would you not
do it? Yeah.
So sorry, I've gone wild. I've gone all over the place.
But all those things that big companies are thinking about when actors are making their own work, you have to do that. I mean, years and years and years and years ago, I've spoken about it before, but mate and mine, we were fresh out of drama school. We had a little bit of work, and we're kicking about over summer, and we come up with the idea of this 2-man show. And we had no money whatsoever, nothing. We were, I got a friend of mine to make 2 shirts. We bought some trousers from Oxfam and turn them into breeches. We had no money. My dad, my bless his heart, he went in the garage and made us props. He made us crowns and bits and pieces, and he knocked these up in the garage. They look bloody brilliant. Still got the crown. That's in the loft.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, still got the crown that we used for the show. But we are going back to mid 1980s, late 1980s. We were doing this. Yeah,
I was just about born.
There you go. And we were on the streets. We took it everywhere. We took it to. We did shows at the Polish Centre in Hammersmith. We did 3 days in Covent Garden or the Piazza. We did it at the Concert Artists Association, two pubs in Putney, one owned by a stuntman, one owned by, I don't know quite what happened in the back room, but it was dodgy. And we did it everywhere. We performed for, we worked with this guy in Putney, and we said, look, we got no money, we can't. He said, I'll tell you what, mate. He said, I'll pay you in. He said, it was stupid. He said, I'll pay you in beer and something to eat. Oh. Now, it was a stupid thing to do. Because I mean, at the end of the first night, he said, "I wish I was paying you money." He said, "Because you two are eating and drinking me out." I said, "We haven't eaten, mate. We got no money. We're actors. We can eat,
So
But
essentially, it was a terrible decision from both parts because he
oh
was
God,
losing
yeah,
out because you were drinking a bar drive and you were making no money whatsoever, just
no
getting
money
pissed
whatsoever.
everywhere.
But it taught us one thing at the end of that because we literally sat down and went, "Is this been worth doing?" We've had an enormous amount of fun for about 3 months. And we made our own posters. We used car paint and my mate Rupert he was quite a talented artist. We were spraying posters on an old bed sheet in my kitchen in my flat in Chiswick with opening the windows because we were gassing each other. We made our own
Afford health
posters.
and safety then.
Yeah, we took them out. I mean, we literally were literally making our own work. He was making posters. I was stitching shirts. But Dad was hammering crowns. We went out and got arrested for fly postering in. I think I've mentioned this before. In the West End, we made
Sounds ring a
30
bell,
posters.
yeah.
We made 30 posters, and we were in Soho. We're slapping them up all over there. No idea. Poster, wallpaper paste, and the police car come around the corner and went, "All right, lads, what are you doing then?" And was like, "Oh shit!" So we told him. We literally said, "Look, this is what we're doing," and he went, "All right." He went, "Right, you got 10 minutes. Get your posters up. If I come around that corner and you're still holding that pot, I'll arrest you." And he went, and we literally saw him pass the bottom of one of the streets, and he looked down, and we were going, "Oh," slapping his thing up, and he just drove on. Lovely copper, let us fly poster.
You met the
I don't know
one
who he
nice
was.
one. Sorry, shouldn't say that.
One nice copper. Ooh, but yeah. So that was my first experience of making my own work, and now thankfully. Now we're not having to fly poster, and that we've got we've got AI and social media, and we can. But that's a whole new ball game, which deserves another conversation.
Well, yes, and we are planning on going into that because there are things we need to talk about that we haven't addressed that we said we would address back in. I was going to say a year ago. It's not a year ago. It was last year.
Last year.
It's slightly
Last
different.
year.
But yes, we do need to go into some of those things, which are becoming more and more effectual on what we do. But yeah, no, I mean this has been fascinating, mate, because as you know, I am a performer. I've never been in a position or felt the need or wanted to create my own work, for want of a better phrase. Equally, I'm not sure I have the kind of the ability to do so. I mean, I'm sure I could, but it's not been at a point where I've gone, right, this is the right route for me. I found I'm very lucky, like you, that I'm multidisciplined, like being able to do voiceover and modeling and acting and singing and various different things means that I go a lot of different outlets to find the work that I need to. That doesn't mean to say I wouldn't like to go into creating things that are in my head. But how I'd start it and where I'd go, God only knows. But it's been fascinating because obviously we've talked lots of times about the fact that you have the Watermill as a venue that you do a lot of work out of, but we've never really dived into the fact that it's not just a case of this is a venue that you regularly perform at. This is a venue where you create things and more importantly, produce things. Because
Absolutely.
we've discussed the new writing side. What we're talking about here is taking something, whether it's a new idea or an old idea, but making it into something that then becomes a viable financial opportunity.
And being absolutely totally responsible from literally from sitting in front of the laptop to putting the costume on, when you open it. It's everything, and the butt stops here. It really does, and it's. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I would say most people, it is a risk, but it's quite exciting, and I think I'm not saying I've done everything. I mean, I'm still performing. I still love doing shows and that. I mean, if I wanted to be a producer, I wouldn't do the show. I'd just produce and direct and sit back and let everyone else do the hard work. But or have the fun. I still want the fun.
Yeah, of course.
So it's that, and then that's what our discussion. I'm making my own work. I'm also taking the risks. Verona and I and Phil are taking the risks, but I am, during that half-term week, we will be doing a show. Now, I haven't waited for someone to ring me. I'm ringing other people, So, yeah, that's the fun part.
One final question, because I know we've got to get on because you've got to go off and do some work, and I've actually got something on as well. How difficult is it being an actor and then having to work out how you're going to pay actors as a producer?
We always say what's fair. We look at national minimum wage and go, okay, that's shit. We come, but we always look at what equity recommends, and we say we should be paying that. We would, and we've employed people we know so far, but also there's a couple of people that we actors we've gone, okay, this is what we're offering. How does that sit with you? And they've gone, okay, all right. Do you want to do the job? Yeah. Can we work out a way to making this work for us and for you? Does it mean we have to pay your travel expenses? Can we come? So we will not pay less than equity minimum. We looked at the fringe agreement, and that's piss poor money. If you look at national minimum wage, to pay national minimum wage for a week is more than equity minimum, fringe minimum. So it's like, okay, we'll try and find. We do have a budget. We'll say to people, we are on a budget. We do, if we can, if there is a little bit of profit, say to people, look, we'll pay you petrol for that week because we can now. But again, you also have to go, okay, we can't spend too much. We're not a charity because we've got other things to cover as well. But we're very fair, and we pay ourselves. We pay ourselves exactly what we pay the actors. We don't, and if there is a profit, well, that's our risk. We're allowed to take the profit. That's a business. Yeah.
No, fair enough. And I think that is the most diplomatic but honest and thorough answer I could have possibly expected. So from diplomatic and honest to I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, we'll be back next week, but we're going to have a special guest with us, someone we've been trying to get on the podcast for a while. Yes. Very, very excited. And I'm sure they will be just as diplomatic and honest, but far, far more entertaining than either of us could wish to be in our wildest dreams, mate.
Well, let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so.
So until then, have a lovely time with your typewriter and your stone carvings and whatever else, mate. And everyone at home, it's a good way to end, isn't it? Coughing my guts up. We'll see you next time. Take it easy. See you later.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.